In the previous tutorial, we learned how to use Django All-Out to authenticate and register users. This works great for now, but what if you want to update our users' info such as their name, age, or password? Of course, we can do this via the admin page, but not all users have access to this page. So in this tutorial, we are going to develop a profile view for our users where they can update their profile info. We will also learn how to work with media by adding an avatar or profile image to our users. So in our users application, we are going to update our models by adding an avatar field, and this is where we are going to have the profile image. So after the age field, this is where we're going to have our avatar, and this will be an image field, so models. The image field is going to take two parameters. The first one is default, and this will be the default image for all our users. So we can have it as default.jpg. We're going to need to provide this, but we're going to do that later. And the second thing we need to define is the upload to, and this will be the path where Django is going to save the images. So this is going to be profile portraits. And after that, we need to make our migrations since we've updated our users model, and we're going to do that using Python money.py, make migrations, and specify our users application. This won't work for now. We're going to see why. And you can see users avatar cannot use image field because Pillow is not installed. So this is an easy fix. We just need to install Pillow. Pillow is a framework responsible for handling images. After that, we can continue by making our migrations. So that will make our migrations. Then we need to migrate. After making the migrations, let us try and add a profile image to one of our users. So I'm going to select one of the users. I'm going to use Jon Snow. And we haven't added the avatar field yet. So in the personal info, we are going to add the avatar field. And that's in our admin file where we have our personal info, where we have our fields. We have the first name, last name, email, and age. Let us add the avatar field. And you can just refresh it. And here we have, you can see that currently the image is set to default.jpg. So we can upload an image, and I'm going to select one of my pictures. I'm going to select one which is profile 2, and I'm going to save it. So we've updated the image, and if you look at our directory, you'll see that the profile portraits directory has been created, and we have our profile image. So we can inspect this further by going to the interactive shell, which comes with Django. That is, and we can access it using Python money.py shell. So you want to inspect the user object. So you're going to import the user model. So from users.models, import users, and I want to fetch this user, Jon Snow, with the email of snow@gmail.com, and we can do that using users.objects.filter, and we want to filter by the email. This will return our user, and it's a query set, which in simple terms is a list. And we can get the single object by running first, and that will return our user. I'm going to save this in a user object, user. From the user object, we can access the avatar. So we can say user.avatar, and you can see it returns this attribute, which is an image field file. And these attributes are several attributes that we can access, and one of them is size. This returns the size of the image. We can also access the URL. We can also access the width, and so on. The most important part is the avatar.url, since we are going to be using this to access the images from the browser. So I'm going to close the dev server by Control D. So what happens when we try to access this image from the browser? Let's run the server first of all, and we can try and access this image from the browser. Let me open it in new tab. So this returns a 404 because Django does not automatically serve media files in development or production. To fix this, Django needs specific instructions on where to look for these files and how to serve them. And you can get detailed explanation for this from the documentation. And basically what it says is that we need to provide two values, that is the media root and the media URL. So in our settings.py file, after the static URL and static files directories, so we need to provide media root and media URL. And media root will specify where our media files are stored in the file system. So Django will know where to look for the media. Media URL, on the other hand, defines a URL path that Django can use to form URLs for specific media. So we can have something like localhost, media, and finally the media name. So the media root we are going to set it to base directory, media. For the media URL, this will be / media. So after that is done, after setting media root and media URL, we also need to add these URL patterns to our URLs. Let me first of all copy these two imports, that is settings and static, and paste them to our root URLs. And we are also told that this is not suitable for production, so we can only use this in debug mode. So I'm going to copy this, and in our URL patterns, I'm going to check if we are in debug mode, and we can do that using if settings dot debug. Debug is equals to true. We need to add this to our URLs. So we can, let me just remove this. URL patterns should be equals to plus equals. This is the same as doing URL patterns is equals to URL patterns plus this. So this is just a shortcut. Can just remove this. So after that, we can try and re-upload the images. So in our users, we have snow@gmail.com. Let me choose the file. I'm going to choose this one, open, and save. Then I can try and access it in the browser. So I'm going to copy the URL, copy link address, and in a new page, let me paste it in. And you can see we get it now. And we can look at this in our file directory. Django created a new file, which is media. We have the profile portraits, and down here we have our profile2.jpg file. So as it is at the moment, we can delete this directory, profile portraits. We don't need it anymore. So what about the default image which we specified in our models? So if a user doesn't provide an avatar, they should be assigned a default image, and this image should be stored in our media directory. So I can open it in my file explorer. So next to the profile portraits, I'm going to paste the default image right there, and we should have it. So media, we have the default. Let me just remove this. So we should have the default.jpg, and here we have the profile portraits. So this is looking good. We are able to render our images and media file. So the next step is to create a profile page where we can update the various profile attributes and where we can view these images in a good way. So we can do that by creating a new view. Let me first close all these tabs. It's getting cluttered. So in our users application, where we have our views, I'm going to create a profile view. We've seen how to do this. So I'm going to say def. This will take request, and it's going to return render request. The template name, this should be profile.html. I haven't created it. We're going to do it in a few. And I'm going to provide the context. This will be the title. The title is going to be profile. So in our templates, this is where we're going to have the profile.html. So in our profile.html, we are going to extend base.html. Then we can have the block. There should be content. So we are going to have the profile section in a div, and this div will have a class of container. This is a bootstrap class. We're also going to give it a couple of bootstrap classes, which are margin top, padding top, and we're going to give it a text white. Then below it, we are going to have another div, and we are going to utilize the bootstrap grid system row. You can read more of this in the documentation, and we're going to justify the content center. If you are familiar with flex boxes, you should be able to do this. So we'll have our first column here. So column large 8. Then we can have our profile card, div card. Again, this is a bootstrap class. I'm going to have more bootstrap classes. Text center, padding, I'm going to give it a padding of 4. Shadow, we're going to give it a background color of dark, and we're going to make the text white. So within our card, we can have our profile attributes. I'm going to start with the avatar, which will be within a div of class profile avatar. This is a custom CSS. Then some bootstrap CSS, position relative, margin bottom 3. Then we can have the image tag, which will have a class of rounded circle. So the source should be the URL to our user's avatar, and we saw this earlier. So that should be user.avatar.url. We can also give it an alt. This should be user.firstName. Below the image, we are going to have the user's first name and last name in a header too. Then we're also going to have the age. The text is going to be muted, and with those changes we can view it in our browser. So before that, we need to create the URL for view. In our user's application, we're going to need to create a new file, which is urls.py. We saw how to do this when we created our home application. So we can just copy this as a starting point and paste it in. And we don't need all this. We just need to import the profile view. Let me rename it to view. And also rename the function to view. Profile view for consistency. And here I'm going to remove this. And here I'm going to have it as profile view. Then this I'm going to have it as profile. The name, this should be profile. I'm going to remove this. Then we also need to register these URL configurations in our main URL configuration, which is in our root project directory where we have our URLs. I'm going to create a new path. So I'm going to copy this to get started. And I'm going to have this as members. So when a user navigates to members, they should be redirected to our users.urls. So members, they should come here to profile, and this should return our profile view. So we can run our server and say this in action. And we can navigate to members.profile. And you can see we get the default image. We have the name and we have the year. There's something wrong with the image. It should be rounded. So I'm going to fix this. There was a typo. So that should be rounded. And we have it. And I also think it's very big. So I'm going to specify some sizing. I'm going to have a width and height of 150. And refresh it. And you can see it looks much better right now. So I'm logged in as the admin. I can log out and see the profile view from our Jon Snow profile with the profile image we provided. So I can log out and log in again. The email should be snow@gmail.com. Password testing321 and sign in. And I can navigate to the profile page, members, profile, and you can see the profile image we provided. So when we started, I said that we need to add an easier way for our users to update their attributes, such as their first and last names, their age, and their profile images. And we can do that using forms. We saw how to work with forms in the previous tutorial. In our users application, where we have our forms.py file, we are going to create another form that will be responsible for updating our user profile. So I'm going to create this as a class, and I'm going to call it UserUpdateForm. So class UserUpdateForm, and this should extend forms.model form. And you can remember that we imported forms from Django at the top. And since this is a model form, we have to specify the specific model you want to interact with or make changes to. And we can do that using our meta class. So class meta, and we want to interact with our users model. So we can set model. This should be users. We need to import it. So from current directory.models, import users. We also need to specify the fields which you want to interact with. So fields, and this is a list, the last name, the age, and the avatar. So let's see how we can use this form in our view. So in our views.py file, we can import it. So from current directory.forms, import user update form. So we can pass the form using context to our template. But first of all, let us instantiate our form using form is equals to user update form. And within our context, we can pass it as this. So form, this should be equals to form. We pass the form to our context. Let us access it in our profile.html. First of all, let us load the crispy tags for styling our form. We can have it here. So after the user's age, we can have the form here as such. Have the form method, it's post, and we pass this to ensure that we can be able to pass images. We have our token, then we are passing the form, and we are decorating it with the crispy tags. So we can refresh the server and see it in action. And you can see we have our first name, last name, age, and avatar. But you notice that the form doesn't come with the user's data pre-populated. So we can fix this in our view. So in our view, we can pass instance as request.user, and this will make sure that the form comes with the data pre-populated. You can see we have it. But right now, if we try to use this form as it is at the moment, it won't work because our view function at the moment only handles get requests and not post requests. But before we progress, there is one thing I want to update in our profile.html file, and that is our form. I want to keep this form in a model. A model is something like this. We're going to use Bootstrap, or we can have a button that says update user profile or update profile. And when the user clicks on it, it should return this model with our form. And when they click on save changes, it should send the post request. At your own time, you can have a look at this. I've prepared it separately. So I'm going to paste it in over here. Let me just fix the indentations. So we have this button for when a user clicks on it, it should return this model, and the user can be able to pass in their updates and send the post request. So you can see this practically in our page, in our profile page. Let's refresh it. You can see we have this. So when they click on update profile, the model comes and they'll be able to enter their details and click on save changes. So how can we ensure that our view handles post requests correctly? So we can say if request.method is equals to post. If we receive a post request, we can initialize our form as such, so user update form, and we can accept the data sent by the user using request dot post, and we can also make sure that we receive any media files uploaded by the user using request dot files. And finally, we can make sure that the form updates the current user's data using instance is equals to request dot user. And after initializing the form, we need to check if the form data is valid. So we can check this using an if. So if form dot is valid, if the form is valid, we need to save the data using form dot save. After saving the form, we need to give the user some kind of visual feedback, and we can do that using messages. First of all, we are going to import messages from Django. So from Django.contrib import messages. After saving the form, we can return the messages using messages.success. It will be a success message. The first attribute is the request, then the message. You can say your profile has been updated. After this is done, we need to redirect them to their profile page. So return redirect. We need to import this from Django shortcuts, redirect, and here we can pass in the URL name, which is profile. So this part handles the post request. What if we receive the get requests, which we have been doing so far? So else, we just need to do this. So we can see this in action by refreshing the server. Let me close it and running it. So let us navigate to the profile page. That is a get request. By simply going to this page, you send a get request. And when we click on update profile, let's say we want to change the name to, the first name to something like Tyrion and the last name to Lannister. We can also change the age to something like 45. And you can also change the image to this and save changes. And you can see it works. Your profile has been updated. Tyrion Lannister, age 45 years old. There's one more thing that I need to show you, and that is to ensure that only authenticated users can access this view or our profile view. For example, at the moment, if we try to access this page in a new browser, it's going to return this error because I'm trying to access it as an anonymous user. Anonymous users are simply unregistered users. So ideally, we would like to redirect them to a login page where they can log in and create an account. And Django provides an effective way of doing that. So we can see this in our view. We just need to decorate our profile using a decorator function, which is login required. So we need to import it, and this is from Django.contrib.auth.decorators import login required. So now when we try to refresh it, you can see that it redirects us to a login page. So we can log in using snow@gmail.com. The password was testing321 and sign in. Before you finish up, there's one more thing that I need to show you, and that is how to standardize our image uploads. So if I was to open our image in a new tab, you will notice that it takes the name of the original file we used to upload the image file, which is profile1.jpg. In my local file system is also profile1.jpg. It would be better if we were to use a standardized way to name our images. This offers a couple of advantages. For example, it can help avoid file name conflicts. It also provides anonymity and privacy for our users, because original file names might reveal personal information about the user, such as their real name or device information. It also provides consistency and readability. By using a standardized file naming system, it's easier to organize and manage files in the backend. So ideally, we would like to have a standard way of renaming the images, and a good system for that would be to use UUIDs. So let's see how we can do that in Django. So in our user models, where we have our avatar, we are going to change the upload to value from profile portraits to a custom function. This will be responsible for renaming our uploaded images. So I'm going to name it get random file name, and the function will take instance and the original file name. The file name is the name that was originally given to the file, whereas the instance is the original object where the file is attached. So we can start by getting the extension. This will be file name, and we're going to split it using a full stop and get the last item in the list, which is the extension name. Then we can use this extension to generate a random file name. We're going to use an F string, and here we are going to use UUID to form the random file name. So here we have UUID dot UUID4. This is a function. Then finally at the end of it, we are going to have our extension. Then we're going to return the full path of our new file name, os.path. We need to import os. So we are going to return os.path.join. So we are going to join profile portraits. I'm just going to copy it from here, and we are going to join it with our random file name. Then finally, in our avatar field, where we have our upload to, we are going to point it to our function. So this will be get random file name. After that's done, we are going to try and re-upload our images. So I'm going to stop the server and run it again. And in our profile, I'm going to refresh it and click update profile. I'm going to choose a file. Let's choose profile 1 again, open and save changes. And let's open it in a new tab. And you'll notice that our image name is now consistent with our naming convention, which is UUID. So all images are going to take this format, which is better for SEO and can help avoid file name conflicts. So I think that's it for this tutorial. We've learned how to work with media, work with forms, and how to manage our users. I've also given you a few tips of how to standardize your image uploads. Like I said, that is very important, especially for SEO and maintaining that consistency. So if you found this video useful, you can consider giving it a thumbs up, subscribing, and you can support the channel by buying me a coffee via the link in the description or scanning the QR code. So I look forward to the next video. I hope to see you there. Thank you.